Story 1. The Man in the Mist. I've been a park ranger in Great Smoky Mountains National Park for 12 years, navigating its misty trails and dense forests through countless emergencies, lost hikers, bear scares, and illegal campfires. But nothing haunts me like that foggy June night in 2023 when my radio crackled to life at 11:47 p.m. Dispatch reported a missing camper, Emily Harper, a 24-year-old solo hiker who hadn't returned to her Cades Cove campsite. Her friends' voices trembled through the static, saying she'd been rattled all day, whispering about a man trailing her on the Abrams Falls Trail, his face hidden under a hood. My stomach churned as I grabbed my gear, flashlight, first aid kit, and a radio that felt heavier than usual. My partner, Tom, met me at the ranger station, his face grim as the fog outside thickened, reducing visibility to a suffocating 10 feet. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of pine and something sour I couldn't place. As we set out, our boots crunched on the gravel path, the sound swallowed by the fog. The forest was too quiet. No crickets, no owls, just an oppressive silence that made my skin crawl. I'd patrolled these trails hundreds of times, but that night every shadow seemed to shift, like figures darting just beyond my flashlight's beam. My heart pounded, not just for Emily, but from a primal dread that something was watching us. An hour into the search, we found her backpack near a gnarled oak, its straps torn, contents, water bottle, map, a granola bar wrapper, scattered like someone had ripped through it in a frenzy. My hands shook as I called her name, my voice muffled, as if the fog itself was choking it. Then, a faint sob broke the silence, raw and desperate, coming from deeper in the woods. We pushed forward, the sobbing growing louder, more frantic, guiding us to a small clearing. My flashlight caught a glimpse of movement, and there she was. Emily, crouched behind a moss-covered log, her face ghostly pale, streaked with tears and dirt. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated, and she was trembling so violently her teeth chattered. "He's still here," she whispered, clutching my arm, her nails digging into my skin. My chest tightened as I scanned the clearing, my flashlight slicing through the fog, revealing nothing but twisted branches and swirling mist. I knelt beside her, my voice low, asking who he was. She stammered about a man in a dark hood, his face obscured, holding a hunting knife that glinted in the dim light. He'd followed her for miles, she said, never speaking, just staring, vanishing into the fog whenever she turned to confront him. She'd tripped while running, twisting her ankle, and hid, certain he was still out there. Tom and I exchanged a glance. We'd dealt with poachers before, but this felt different, like the forest itself was conspiring against us. We helped Emily to her feet, her weight heavy against me as she limped, her breath hitching with every step. As we retraced our path to the ranger station, I heard it, a deliberate crunch of leaves behind us, too rhythmic to be an animal. I spun around, my flashlight sweeping the darkness, but the fog swallowed everything. My pulse raced. I told myself it was a deer. But the sound followed us, pacing us, stopping when we stopped. Emily whimpered, her grip tightening, and even Tom's usual calm cracked, his hand hovering near his holster. The 3-mile hike back felt like an eternity, every rustle amplifying my fear that the man was just out of sight, waiting. When we finally reached the station, I locked the door, my hands shaking as I radioed for a search team. At dawn, they scoured the area but found no footprints, no knife, no sign of anyone. Emily left the park, refusing to speak further, but I still patrol those trails. Every foggy night, I feel eyes on me, and sometimes I swear I hear that same deliberate crunch just beyond my flashlight's reach.
Story 2. The fire that wasn't. I've worked as a park ranger in Yellowstone for 8 years, accustomed to the park's wild moods. Sudden blizzards, rogue bears, and wildfires that can turn a quiet night into chaos. But one sweltering July night in 2024, I faced something that still makes my blood run cold. At 2:13 a.m., my radio blared with a call from a family camping near Lamar Valley, their voices shrill with panic. They reported a fire, bright orange flames creeping toward their tent, smoke stinging their eyes. I grabbed my fire suppression kit and raced out in my truck, my heart hammering at the thought of a blaze in the tinder dry grass. The stars were sharp overhead, no clouds to suggest lightning, which only deepened my unease. When I reached their campsite, the family, Mark and Lisa Reynolds, and their 16-year-old daughter, Chloe, were huddled by their SUV, faces pale, eyes darting to the woods. Lisa pointed to a spot 50 yards away, stammering about flames that had erupted out of nowhere, licking up the trees, but as I scanned the area with my flashlight, I saw nothing. No glow, no smoke, just the dark silhouettes of pines swaying in the breeze. My stomach knotted. I smelled it then, a faint whiff of charred wood, like a campfire snuffed out moments ago. I asked Chloe to show me exactly where they'd seen it, and she led me to the edge of the campsite, her hands trembling as she pointed to a cluster of trees. The air felt wrong, heavy, and the scent of ash grew stronger, though the ground was untouched. No scorch marks, no embers. I pulled out my thermal scanner, expecting residual heat from a recent fire, but the readings were stone cold, as if nothing had burned. The family insisted they'd seen flames, heard the crackle of branches, felt the heat on their faces. Mark described the fire as alive, knife, moving too fast, too deliberate. My skin prickled. I suggested it might have been a flare or a prank, but their fear was infectious, burrowing into me. Chloe whispered that she'd seen a figure in the flames, a tall silhouette, standing still, untouched by the fire, just watching them. My throat went dry. I'd heard campfire tales of hallucinations in the park, blamed on altitude or exhaustion, but the ash smell clung to my nostrils. I moved the family to a safer site near the ranger station, their SUV's headlights cutting through the dark as we drove. Alone, I returned to the site, my flashlight trembling in my grip. That's when I found it, a small pile of ash, still warm in the exact spot Chloe had pointed to. No burned grass, no charred branches, just ash that shouldn't exist. My heart raced as I swept the area with another ranger, our boots crunching on dry earth. But we found no tracks, no signs of a fire starter. The family left at sunrise, Chloe still glancing over her shoulder, whispering about the figure. I filed a report, but the incident gnawed at me. Now, patrolling Lamar Valley, I catch that phantom smoke smell, and at night, I see that silhouette in my dreams, standing in flames that don't burn. Story 3. The Silent Screams. As a ranger in Olympic National Park, I've faced the rainforest's unforgiving nature. Hikers lost in its labyrinthine trails, flash floods, and cougars prowling too close to campsites. But one damp October evening in 2022, I encountered something that shattered my sense of safety. At 9:36 p.m., my radio crackled with a distress call from backpackers on the Hoh River Trail, their voices laced with terror. They'd heard screams, human, guttural, like someone was being torn apart. They were too scared to investigate, and I didn't blame them. The rainforest's dense canopy can make even daylight feel claustrophobic. I headed out alone, my flashlight's beam barely cutting through the dripping ferns and moss-draped cedars. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and decay, and the forest was unnaturally silent. No owls, no rustling critters, just my own breathing and the squelch of my boots in the mud. The campers had described the screams as coming from a mile up the trail, near a bend in the river. My heart pounded as I called out, hoping for a lost hiker, but the silence pressed back, heavy and wrong. I found their campsite first, a tent half collapsed, its contents spilled across the ground, a sleeping bag, a stove, a backpack ripped open like someone had fled in a blind panic. My throat tightened. I shouted again, my voice echoing off the trees, unanswered. Then it came, a scream, so raw it felt like a blade in my chest, slicing through the silence from maybe 100 yards ahead. My blood froze. It was too human, too desperate. I ran, my flashlight bouncing, branches snagging my jacket as I yelled for whoever it was to hold on. Another scream, closer, led me to a clearing by the river, but it was empty, just mud and roots glistening in the beam. My hands shook as I swept the area, calling out until my voice cracked. Then I saw him, a man, maybe 30, crumpled at the base of a massive cedar, his face bloodied, one leg twisted at a sickening angle. His eyes were wide, glassy, and he was muttering, "They're still here," over and over. I radioed for medevac, my voice trembling as I bandaged his wounds, trying to keep him conscious. He said he'd been running for hours, chased by them. He didn't know who, only that he'd heard screams that weren't his, echoing through the trees. My flashlight darted to the shadows, every snap of a twig making my heart leap. I stayed with him, the river's murmur the only sound, until the chopper arrived. He was airlifted out, never explaining who they were, only whispering about the screams. We searched for days, dogs, drones, a dozen rangers, but found no tracks, no other campers. Now, when I patrol the Ho, I listen for those screams, and sometimes in the dead of night I hear them, faint, like the forest is crying out for help I can't give.